Hello everyone, thank you for attending the Upgrading ArcGIS Enterprise session. I'm Cameron and my co-presenter is Nicole. We're both product engineers on the Enterprise development team. And today we're going to be discussing the ArcGIS Enterprise upgrade experience. Just a couple quick questions. How many here have upgraded ArcGIS Enterprise previously? Okay, great. And how many are planning to upgrade soon? Okay, good. All right, so today we're going to talk about some common terms with upgrades. We're going to talk about what upgrades are, why you should upgrade, supported versions to upgrade from and to, some things you should consider before performing the upgrade, and we'll also discuss the recommended order of which components you should upgrade first of Enterprise. And then we'll discuss each component upgrade experience. First, the ArcGIS Web Adapter, the portal for ArcGIS, the ArcGIS for Server, and then the Datastore. And then we'll also discuss some validation checks that you can do after your upgrade is complete to ensure that the upgrade was successful. And we'll also discuss the ArcGIS Enterprise Builder upgrade experience, as well as a demo video of the entire upgrade process. All right, so some common terms and definitions. When we say an in-place upgrade, this refers to how the installation setup is ran. In this scenario, the installation setup for the new version is installed on top of the existing software. So this means you do not need to uninstall the previous version prior to install the new version. So an example would be if you have 10.6.1 installed, you can just run the 10.7 installation setup right over the existing installation, and it'll perform the upgrade for you. Another term is uninstall or install upgrade. This also refers to how the installation setup is ran. But in this scenario, you'd uninstall the previous version before you install the new version. And this is also sometimes referred to as an out-of-place upgrade. There is also a one-click, and this refers to what needs to be done after your setup installation is complete to the newer version. So this means you do not need to fill out any forms. You can just simply click one button to complete the upgrade of the software. And then we have a post-upgrade, and this is an operation or something that needs to be done after your upgrade is complete. The upgrade is complete after the new setup is ran and the final continue upgrade button has been clicked. Then we have a direct upgrade, and this is when you upgrade from your current version to another version without first upgrading to an intermediate version. So for example, if you have 10.3.1, you can directly upgrade to 10.7. Then the opposite of that would be an indirect upgrade, and that's where you can first upgrade to an intermediate version of the software before going to the current release. So if you're at 10.3.1, an indirect upgrade would be to upgrade to 10.4.1 and then say to 10.7. So what are upgrades? Upgrades are the way of an existing version of the software to be moved to a new version of the software. And the upgrade will maintain your content, your security, your configurations, groups, and many of your customizations like your portal banner. However, this will exclude any customizations that are in the config.js file. And upgrades also don't apply to just the core components, but they also apply to your server roles like ArcGIS GeoEvent, GeoAnalytics, as well as your apps like Insights and Workforce. So why should we upgrade? Well, we want to access the latest features and functionality in the current release. Also to stay within the supported life cycle. After so many releases, old version will be phased out and deprecated, and there'll be no support for it. So if you're always upgrading the latest release, you'll be staying within that life cycle. The new releases include security vulnerability fixes, as well as bug and performance enhancements. Here we have a table of our supported versions. On the left column there we have a version upgrading from, and up the top column there, top row, we have the version you're upgrading to. And just to note that 10.7x will be the last release series that you can support, or that will support upgrading directly from 10.2.x. So before you upgrade, we should read the documentation. A few reasons we give these steps that you need to perform to upgrade successfully. It also has some prerequisites and recommends to back up. And then next you're going to want to download your installation setups from the MyEsri site, as well as create and download your license files from the Esri site, MyEsri site. The ArcGIS server license file remains the same. It's a provisioning PRVC file or an ECP file. However, the portal license file starting at 10.7 has changed to a JSON format, or a JSON file. This can still be created in MyEsri, but just want to note that it's a JSON file now, and we'll discuss that in more detail later on. And then if you have any applications like Workforce, Collector, Insights, or etc., you want to check the compatibility of that app with the version of Portal that you're upgrading to. And this is because some applications are on a different release cycle than Enterprise, and so some of the apps may release at a later time that are compatible with that version. Now, if you're using a version of ArcGIS Enterprise that includes the WebGIS DR tool, it's recommended to use this to create a backup of your enterprise software. So it'll back up your portal for ArcGIS, your server, and your hosting server, and your data store, relational and tile cache. Another backup option is also each component has their own backup utility. So Portal will have its own WebGIS DR backup utility. ArcGIS Server has its own, as well as Datastore. Another backup option is to back up the content directories where the config stores reside. By default, Portal stores it on the C ArcGIS Portal folder. ArcGIS Server is on the C ArcGIS Server, and Datastore is on the C ArcGIS Datastore directory. Now, I would like to note that if you're to back up these directories, you should stop the Portal service or ArcGIS Server service or Datastore service first, and then make a copy of those directories so that all the file locks are released and we're not backing up locked files. And then another backup option is if your enterprise deployment resides in virtual machines and you have the ability to take an image or a snapshot, take it of all of the environments, including the file server. So if you have the config stores on a network share, you'd want to take a snapshot of that as well. And also, a key thing here is do not unfederate. Never ever unfederate before the upgrade or during the upgrade or after the upgrade. The software knows how to handle the federation, and if you unfederate, it will break things. All right, so that leads us into what order should we upgrade, which component should we upgrade first? And the recommendation we give is upgrade your portal for ArcGIS first, because this is the entry point or the hub of your enterprise deployment. And then once your portal is upgraded, we'd want to upgrade the portal's web adapter. Then we can move to ArcGIS or server. If you have a multi-node site, it's recommended to upgrade one server at a time. So if you have a 2-machine site, upgrade machine 1. Once that's complete, upgrade machine 2. And then once all those are upgraded, upgrade your ArcGIS server's web adapter. And then lastly, upgrade your ArcGIS Datastore. And then just a note here, you do not need to upgrade through all the releases. So you can do a direct upgrade from, say, 10.2 all the way up to 10.7 just with the 10.7 setup. Okay, so now I'll discuss the upgrade process or experience of the ArcGIS Web Adapter. So the first thing you want to do is, if you're on Windows, launch your apps and features, your programs list, to take note of the web adapter context, or this is also known as the name of the web adapter, for example, ArcGIS. And then once you've notated that, you'll want to uninstall the previous version of the web adapter, and then run the 10.7 ArcGIS Web Adapter setup. And then this is where you will put the name of the web adapter that you took note of. And then once that setup is complete, the web adapter configuration wizard will launch in your browser, and you can configure it with your portal or ArcGIS for server. And now I will let Nicole talk about upgrading Portal for ArcGIS.
All right, thanks, Cameron. So Cameron's gone into a bit of the backstory of upgrades and some common terms. I'm going to go into some details of each component. So we're going to do this in order of what we recommend upgrading. And so we're going to start with Portal. And one of the main reasons we always recommend upgrading Portal before Server is that until Portal and its web adapter are available, you cannot log into Server Manager to validate any parts of the server upgrade. If you're familiar with Server Admin, you can certainly log in through there and validate. Not everyone is, and Manager is a little bit of an easier interface to work with. So this is one of the main reasons we recommend upgrading Portal first. So after your installation of Portal is done, you're going to be presented with one of these pages. This really depends on what version you're upgrading to. The UI has changed several times throughout the releases, but you want to see one of these pages once the installation is done. Once you follow kind of the on-screen instructions, whether it's filling in the form, clicking the Continue Portal Upgrade button, the next important thing is indexing. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with indexing issues. They're a common thing to run into. Prior to 10.7, you were required to do this manually. At 10.7, if your content is on a file share, we will do the reindexing for you as part of the upgrade process. So why is reindexing so important after an upgrade? So every release, Esri adds new default content into the portal. There's new languages that we support, all of that. And reindexing is what tells Portal where the content is and makes that content searchable. So until the reindex is done, you may see content missing. You may open, say, the templates page and see thumbnails missing, might not be able to find some of the applications. These are all indicating that there's a problem with the index. To re-index, you go into Portal Admin, you go Home, System, and there's the indexer. So we're just going to walk through what re-indexing looks like. So if you check the status after an upgrade, you might see something like this. You'll see lots of red, the numbers aren't matching, and this means you have to sync them up. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into the re-index. Your mode will be a full mode. Then you're just going to click the re-index button. You don't have to change anything else. After it's done, it's going to bring you back out to the main indexing page. At this point, I would suggest don't assume that the index is in sync. Check and make sure that everything is synced back up. If it's not, you might have to run through this again. If you're at a version where you have Living Atlas, Premium, or subscriber content configured, prior to 10.7, you had to upgrade this manually. So you had to go into your Settings tab, you had to go into that Online tab, and then you've seen this Upgrade Content. As part of the post-upgrade process in Portal, we actually upgrade the Living Atlas content for you. You no longer need to do this step. At 10.6.1, we stopped supporting enterprise geodatabases as the managed database for your hosting server. They're still supported as registered databases. They're just not supported as a managed database for the hosting server. So if you upgrade to 10.6.1 or 10.7 and you have this situation set up, the first thing you will see when you go to the Servers tab to validate is this giant notice that's telling you that you are in an unsupported configuration. When you dismiss that message, you're going to see that your server does not validate. If you hover over that, you will see a message saying that it's unsupported and you must configure the ArcGIS data store. So within our documentation, there is workflows to move from the Enterprise Geodatabase as your managed database to an ArcGIS data store. So we're going to go into licensing, and I'm going to make a quick note of prior to 10.7, and then we're going to go into some details. So prior to 10.7, after the setup was complete, you got presented with the software authorization wizard, where you provided that ECP or the PRVC, or if you had a perpetual license, you provided the code. At 10.7, there is no longer a software authorization wizard for Portal. So before I go into the details of how this has changed to 10.7, is anybody familiar with the new user types that have come out in online or have been hearing about them in other presentations? Okay, so we have some familiarity, so bear with me. This is going to be a little confusing, what's going to happen here. But if anybody has questions after, we can certainly go into more detail and help you understand this better. So the first thing I'm going to note is that everything has been updated at 10.7 to require this new Portal JSON file. If you're upgrading through the UI, you will have to provide that file before you can actually upgrade. If you have automation through Python or some other method that's accessing the API, that will need to be updated to send the JSON file with it. If you're using our command line tool to upgrade Portal, it will also require that file. So this is why we mention get those license files before starting the upgrade, because you don't want to get to this point and not have it. So what happens? So if you're sitting at a version that's between 10.2 and 10.4.1, and you have a license file that contains one user type that's compatible with your members, those members will be assigned to that user type. So this is this first option, this single, all those members will become a creator. If you're in a situation where your license file contains multiple user types that support those members, say creator and GIS professional, they get moved into this user type that's called standard temporary. So I'm going to go into more details in a bit here on what that standard temporary actually is. If you're sitting in a version that's between 10.5 and 10.6.1, so you have level 1 and level 2 members. If your license file is a 1-to-1 ratio, so you have one user type that's compatible with a level 1 user and one user type that's compatible with a level 2 member, they will be brought over into that user type. So in this scenario, it's level 1s will become viewers and level 2s will become creators. If you're in a situation where you have multiple user types that are compatible with level 1 and multiple user types that are compatible with level 2, your level 1s will become this light temporary and your level 2s will become standard temporary. So then we get in some mixed cases. So if you have one compatible user type for level 1 and multiple compatible user types for level 2, your level 1s will become the viewer and your level 2s will become the standard temporary. So similarly, for if you have multiple user types compatible with level 1, they will become light temporary, and a single user type compatible with level 2, they will become the creator. So again, I know it's a little confusing, it's a little hard to digest in a couple minutes, but if anybody needs more clarification on this, we can talk about it after for sure. So what is standard temporary and light temporary? So when the user type discussions started coming up and we started doing the work, we realized very quickly that we couldn't decide for you who got what user type when we were supplied with multiple ones. So we had to come up with a way that we could put your users into a user type and finish the upgrade, but not totally put you in a weird state. So standard temporary is equivalent to level 2, light temporary is equivalent to level 1. When you go into your portal, you'll see that these two are over-assigned. So technically you have a license for 0 of these and everybody is over-assigned. Anybody who is assigned to this user type cannot log into the portal unless they are in the administrator role. Once you assign them out of this user type into a valid user type like creator or GIS professional or viewer, they can log into the portal right away. As soon as everyone has been unassigned from one of these user types, you no longer see them in the UI. They will disappear, so you won't see them again. So we're going to talk a little bit about a highly available portal. So this is at HA. In the past couple releases, it's gone through many changes on how to upgrade it. So we're going to go through a little bit of its history and what happened. So if you're upgrading to any version, including 10.6, you had to break that HA connection before you could upgrade. And so really you were upgrading one portal and kind of doing a clean install of another and just joining it back. At 10.6.1, we made it so that you did not have to break HA. You could upgrade both together. After the upgrade, though, you were required to do the actual continue portal upgrade on the primary machine. So what kind of happened here is this posed some questions. Which machine should I run the installation on first? What one is primary? What one is standby? Maybe I caused a failover during the actual installation of the software, and it got really confusing for users. So at 10.7, what we have done is that you no longer need to be aware of who is primary and who is standby. So you upgrade both portals, click continue portal upgrade on whichever machine you happen to be on last. Run the post-upgrade operation on either machine. At this point, your portal is still highly available. They're still together. You might want to check to see which one is primary and which one is standby, just so you know going forward. But this is a big change we did in our portal upgrade process at 10.7 for anybody who's in a HA portal scenario. So after this, you would actually reconfigure the web adapter with Portal. So this is what Cameron has gone through. And then you would move into upgrading the server. So let's take a look at some of the things that have changed in server. One of the changes was pre-10.5 when you upgraded to, say, 10.4.1. After the installation was done, your server was fully available. You could just log in and start using it. At 10.5 and all the way to 10.7 inclusive, now afterwards you're presented with the continue server upgrade button. So these were some core changes to the licensing structure at 10.5 that required us to make these changes. Another important point to note is that if you have a portal that has multiple federated servers that are at least 10.5, these servers do not have to be upgraded at the same time as your portal and hosting server. We support federated servers. If you're at, say, 10.6.1, you can have federated servers that are 10.5, 10.5.1, 10.6. The only caveats to that is that your hosting server must be the same version as your portal. If you have anything like geoanalytics, it will be required to be the same version as portal as well. But just general federated servers, it might be an image server, you do not have to upgrade at the same time. Another big change is that at 10.7, you can no longer directly upgrade from 10.1. So if you have a 10.1 server at 10.7, if you try to run the 10.7 setup on top of 10.1, the setup is going to throw an error saying you must uninstall 10.1 first. If you try to uninstall 10.1 and then install 10.7 and do the upgrade process once Manager opens, you will get an error and it will tell you to check the documentation for version compatibility. So this means that if you're at 10.1, you will be required to upgrade to some version prior to 10.7 before you can go to 10.7. And as Cameron noted, anybody who's currently at 10.2x, 10.7x is the last versions that you will be able to directly upgrade. Once we hit 10.8, you will no longer be able to directly upgrade 10.2, 10.2.1, or 10.2.2. Multi-cluster sites. So at 10.7, we no longer support multiple clusters. There is no reference to them. You cannot create them. They don't exist. What does this mean if your current situation has multiple clusters and you're upgrading to 10.7? So several things are going to happen during the upgrade process. The first is that we are going to check if you have what's called the default cluster. If you don't have it, we are going to create it. All of your servers will be moved into that default cluster, and all of your services, including the system and utility services, will be moved into that cluster. All of your services will be in a stopped state. The system and utility services will be started or stopped depending on the licensing and stuff that you have on your server. But the services that you had on your server will be required to be started manually. So at this point, you would upgrade servers, web adapter, reconfigure it with server, and then you would upgrade Datastore. So the reason for doing server before Datastore is that it's required. You can't upgrade Datastore, you can't reconfigure it with a server that isn't there. So that's the main reason for that order. So prior to 10.7, you were required to upgrade the primary Datastore before standby if you had that HA Datastore configuration. At 10.7, similarly to what we did in Portal, you can upgrade primary or standby. So as long as you install the software on both machines, you click upgrade on one of them and it will upgrade both data stores. This is for tile cache and relational. At 10.6, there was a critical change within Datastore. You can no longer do an uninstall install upgrade for Datastore if you're upgrading to 10.6. You must do an in place. This means you have to install that 10.6 setup directly on top of whatever version you're currently at. For the spatiotemporal big data store, this is what's mainly used in geoanalytics workflows. All you need to do is run the installation on each machine in the configuration and then continue the upgrade on one of them and it will upgrade all of the machines within the configuration. So that's kind of a quick overview of each individual component and some of the changes through time and things to be aware of. But let's take a little look at what you should be doing after you have upgraded to ensure that everything is actually okay. So sometimes after the upgrade, everything looks okay, but you're still questioning, how do I know? So these are some things that we recommend doing afterwards to make sure that everything is functioning as you expect it to. So the first is log into Portal and validate your servers. So this is in that Settings and Servers tab. Go in there and make sure all of your servers are validating. You want to check your index status in Portal Admin. Even if you have upgraded to 10.7 and we have done that reindex for you, it's still good to go in and check and make sure it's in sync because it's critical to how Portal functions. You're going to want to check your TLS settings. This is in both Portal and Server. There may have been changes and you may need to go in and make changes to these settings. Publish to Portal. This can be as simple as publishing a shapefile. You can publish a scene service if you do 3D workflows. This will tell you that the connection for publishing between Portal and Server is working as expected, that you have no certificate errors, everybody's communicating happily. You also want to publish to Server. So this could either be through Server Manager, it could be from ArcMap, it could be from Pro, but publish directly to your server and create one of those ArcSoc processes and make sure that that publishing workflow is also still valid. If you've upgraded to 10.7, you may need to reassign your members. So this is where we talked about that standard and that light temporary. If your members are sitting in those, they cannot access your portal. So you're going to want to make sure that you've reassigned them to a user type that they can log back in. Enterprise Builder. So we're going to go over some quick details about upgrading using Enterprise Builder. For those that may not know, Enterprise Builder is something that we introduced at 10.5.1. It's one installer that sets up all the components, your portal server, your hosting data store, your 2 web adapters, and configures it for you on one machine. Because it was introduced at 10.5.1, this means that the first upgrades for it were supported at 10.6. One of the biggest caveats to using Builder to upgrade is that your deployment had to initially be configured with Builder. So anybody that started with us prior to 10.5.1 and didn't use Builder, you cannot move to Builder. It's a common question we get. It's still one of our unfortunate stories that we're trying to work on. During the upgrade, Enterprise Builder will upgrade your portal, it'll upgrade your hosting server, it will upgrade the data store, it will go through and it will reconfigure the web adapters. It notes the context of your web adapters, it keeps all of that stuff in check. It also has an upgrade-based deployment utility. So this is one of the tools that we package. So if you'd rather do things by command line and silently, this option is there on both Windows and Linux. So in a minute here, Cameron's going to go through a demo video. So a large number of you have done upgrades before. We know it takes time. Unless we wanted to sit here all day together, we weren't going to be able to do a live demo upgrade. So what we did is we videotaped an upgrade to 10.7. So the workflow that you're going to see is the 10.7 workflow and the interfaces for that. Before we do the video, what we want to do is some other presentations you may want to go to. So if you're in Amazon or Azure, there are specific pieces of information from those teams about upgrading in those environments. Unfortunately, these sessions are at the same time, so you have to pick one to go to. They're both Thursday from 4 to 5. For Chef and Automation, unfortunately, their presentation was right before ours. So if you went to it, you may have heard information on it for upgrading with them. If not, come down to the showcase in the enterprise area, and we can direct you to the people to talk to about upgrading with those methods. So, and then the quick note about the survey, so you can go into the app and do the survey for this presentation. But at this point, I'm going to pass it to Cameron to do the video, and then afterwards, if we should still have time left over and for any questions.
Thank you, Nicole. So I'll do show a video here of the upgrade experience. So the very first thing we're going to do is run our Portal for ArcGIS setup. This is the welcome screen that you are presented with. Next, we'll get the master agreement. So we'll go ahead and read through that and accept. Then this just displays our installation directory. And then here's where we're going to enter the password for the Portal for ArcGIS Run As account that runs the service. And if you have a configuration file, you could also browse to that. The next page here, it gives you the option to export this as a configuration file if you choose to. And in this case, I'm not going to export it. And then finally, it's just saying that it's going to start the upgrade or the installation process. And this, depending on your machine, may take 45 minutes or an hour, depending on the resources. Once that's finished, you click Finish, and it will launch your browser and take you to the Portal for ArcGIS Home app. And this is where you're presented with, you need to import your JSON license file for Portal that we had talked about earlier with the new user types. So once you browse to your file, you will click Continue Portal Upgrade. This will take some time here. Once this completes, it should pop up a notice telling you that the upgrade is complete and kind of give you some direction on where to go next. The post upgrade will be required, as well as upgrading your hosting server, reconfiguring your web adapters, and upgrading the data store. So once you click OK, the post upgrade is complete, and it takes you to this page that says a reminder that you need to now uninstall your web adapter, reinstall the new version, and configure with Portal. So we'll go to our apps and features on the computer and make note of the name of the context of the web adapter, and at the same time we'll go ahead and uninstall it. And so this is a pretty quick uninstall. It should just take a minute or two. So you just click Remove. It will uninstall your web adapter. And then when you click Finish, you're going to want to run the new version of the setup for the web adapter. Choose your website. And this is where you're going to enter the context or the name of the web adapter, and you click Install. And this is a fairly quick install as well. Once that's finished, it will launch the web browser where you can configure the Portal web adapter. You just enter your Portal URL, your Portal for ArcGIS administrator username and password, and click Configure. Then once that's done, you'll see a link at the bottom. You go ahead and click that, and just to validate that the web adapter did configure correctly, and go ahead and sign in, and you'll notice this message will appear saying the number of licenses assigned exceeds the number of licenses available. And this is what Nicole had talked about earlier, where your users will be in a standard temporary or light temporary state. We can go ahead and click OK for now, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. See this message here that the post-upgrade operations are required. This is just letting you know that you can now upgrade your hosting server, web adapter, and your data store. Now that that's complete, we can go ahead and proceed with running the ArcGIS Server 10.7 setup. It's our welcome screen, license agreement, just installation directory. And then this is letting you know that it's going to install Python 2.7. And here, once again, we're going to enter our password for the ArcGIS Server Service Run As account. If you have a configuration file, you can import that as well. And then the next screen here is asking you if you want to export the file, and then ready to install. And then once this setup, installation hub completes, click Finish. Your web browser will launch it's the software authorization wizard, and this is where we're going to point to our 10.7 ArcGIS Server license file. And then once this finishes, a browser will launch, and it'll take you to the server manager page, and this is where you can click the server upgrade. Once this is done, this will take a few minutes. It'll take you to, you'll see this login page here, but we can't log in yet until our web adapter has been upgraded. So what we'll do is launch our apps and features and make note of our context, our web adapter context, which is server here. And we'll proceed with uninstalling the server web adapter. And then once this uninstalls, we will run the 10.7 web adapter setup again, and we'll make note of the context, which was server, so we'll enter it at this, after we select the website. Right here, we'll go ahead and put the name of the web adapter. Next, and we'll install. Once this setup completes, it'll take us to, the browser will launch, and it'll take us to the web adapter configuration page. And this is where we can put in our ArcGIS server URL with the ArcGIS server administrator username or password. And if you want to enable administrative access, leave that checked, and we'll configure. And then it gives us a link at the bottom. We can click it just to verify that the web adapter configured. Now we're ready to upgrade our ArcGIS data store. So we'll launch the data store setup, and it's the same as the portal and server experience. And then once this setup completes, click Finish. The browser will launch the data store configuration wizard. We enter our server URL, administrator username and password, and this will do a prerequisite check just to check to see if you have the relational tile cache data stores. And this is just letting you know that these are ready for upgrade, and you click Next. That will complete the data store upgrade, and it'll let you know that both succeeded. Now we should, now that our upgrade is complete, we should do some validation checks. You can sign into Portal Home, go to our settings, and under the server tab, we'll want to validate our federation and hosting server to make sure that those are functioning correctly, and we should get a green check mark there. So federation validated, our hosting server validated. And then next, we can go to ArcGIS Server Manager, make sure our services are started, maybe click on one just to make sure that it's functional here, just kind of zoom in and out. And so that's working. And then now, if you sign back into Portal, you'll get this message again that your licenses have exceeded, and that's because our users are in that standard temporary or light temporary state, and so we'll go ahead and fix that. So if we go to our members tab, you notice here the user type is standard temporary. I only have 2 users in this portal, and then when you click standard temporary, you can choose which user role you want to assign that user. And so the license file I provided, we have 50 creator, GIS professional, professional basic, standard, insights analyst. And so I'm going to go ahead and just make this one a creator since that's the administrator account, and same with this one here. And that, I believe, will conclude the upgrade. And if there's any questions, please let us know.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that installing the 10.7 an enterprise database would be supported as a hosting data store. How do you migrate any services data that's in an enterprise database?
So the workflow that we've created, you don't actually have to migrate your data from your...
Just repeat the question.
Oh, sorry. The question was, if you're upgrading to 10.7 and you have a hosting server that's using the Enterprise Geodatabase, how do you migrate that content from the Enterprise Geodatabase into the ArcGIS data store? So what we actually have done is the first thing that you want to do is go into Server Manager and go into that Data Stores tab where you can see your Enterprise Geodatabase is listed. If you edit that Manage Database, there's an option to uncheck a box that says Manage Database. At that point, it's just a registered database, so all of your services and everything still function, accessing that data from that Enterprise Geodatabase. Then you install the 10.7 data store and configure it with the ArcGIS server, and it will wire itself up as the managed database. Go back into Portal, run the validate on the servers, and you'll see that it validates fine. So what that means is all of your services continue to work as they always did, and any new services that you publish to the portal, now that data will go into the ArcGIS data store. So you don't actually have to migrate the content from the Enterprise Geodatabase into data store for your services to still function.
Did you have to stop like your web adapter service or anything like that before you do the upgrade? Or you don't stop any services? Because I remember I had some confusion between all that when I upgraded from 10.5 to 10.6.
So the question,
I want to make sure.
yeah. So the question was, do we have to stop any of the services like the web adapter or anything before we do the upgrade, or if we can leave them running? So no, you don't have to stop any of the services. They can be running. They are going to kind of start and stop throughout the upgrade process if you're actually watching them, but you don't have to stop them before doing the upgrade. Yeah.
Only because I saw like our ArcGIS manager where you said, look and make sure everything's started or something like that. But I noticed when I did one of my upgrades, I had something weird going on with the user, because I used the config file. But in any case, whatever it was, I noticed that the status was that it was started or something like that, but then it wasn't going. And so there was this, I actually had to go into the administrator to actually see that, even though it was trying to start it, the service is actually running or something like that, but yet the UI showed it as though they were running on your manager. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, so I think she was saying is she ran into an issue where after she had upgraded ArcGIS server, some of the services in the manager said started or starting state, but they actually weren't started. And so that is correct. If you go to the admin API or admin endpoint of ArcGIS server, you get a little bit more granular detail in that for each individual service you can click and you can actually check the status. There's a configured state and a real-time state. And what could have probably happened was some of your services got stuck. Maybe a real-time state were stopped, but configured state were started. And so that's where In Manager, it may show starting or stopping state. So if you use the admin API, you can get a little bit more details on what exact state it's in. So I would say in that scenario, you can go to Manager, you see if it's in a starting state, click the thumbnail, see if it's working or not. If it's not, then you can browse to the admin endpoint and check the status, maybe stop it and start it, see if it just, maybe the ArcSoc process got hung up and it just needed to be stopped and then restarted. Or maybe even restarting the ArcGIS server service so that it restarts all the services.
Sure. Yeah.
So you know the speak you have about reindexing. We've had situations where you reindex and there's a mismatch between the two. Running the reindex doesn't help fix it. What's the sort of recommendation or advice to fix this situation like that?
So the question was about reindexing. So where they've run into a situation where they've run the reindex in Portal a couple times and something still isn't coming into sync. So there's a couple things that can happen there. Sometimes what we've seen happen, and we've had to work with support, is that somehow there's an orphaned item in the database where you've deleted the item from Portal, but for some reason that information didn't get deleted from the database, so it's never going to sync up. So if you've tried to do it a couple times and it still hasn't worked, I would recommend contacting support. And typically within development, we will work with them because we have to do custom scripts in order to fix that type of specific scenario. If it's due to something else, there's other workflows that we can go through, but that one scenario needs to go through support, unfortunately. So we are both at the showcase, so if anybody has questions or wants to talk about anything specific to your deployment, we will be there and we're going to be here for a bit as we pack up and stuff, so feel free to stop by and ask any questions you have.
Thank you.